everybody. So we're here to talk about our new story this week. Can you believe that it's already almost the end of November? All right, this story is a perfect one to talk about right before Thanksgiving because we're also going to throw in a little Thanksgiving stuff. And the first Thanksgiving was celebrated to celebrate the harvest, that the Pilgrims survived and they were able to have a crop, and they celebrated with the Indians. So this is a good story because we're going to learn about harvesting and crops and growing plants. So our story this week is called The Harvest Birds, and it's by Blanca Lopez de Mariscal, and it's illustrated by Linda Kane. So you can see there's our author. What's an author do? Yeah, they write the words, and the illustrator does what? Draws the pictures. Good. If you come over here to our sidebar, you can see we've got some information. Our target skill this week is drawing conclusions. And drawing conclusions is kind of like making inferences. They're the same thing. And when you draw conclusions, you use details to figure out ideas about story, events, and characters that the author doesn't state. So you think about what you've read, you think about what you know, and then you decide something. We're going to practice that on Wednesday. Our genre for this week is folk tales. And folk tales are stories that were first told orally. That's being told by mouth. They weren't written down. They reflect a culture's customs. As you read, look for a plot that may also teach a lesson, a main character who shows the values of a culture, and values are what a culture believes in or what's important to them, and information about the customs of a culture. So before we read, let's go ahead and go over our vocabulary so that you know what it means when you come to it. Our first word is harvest. And harvest is the crop that's gathered during one growing season. So a harvest is not just one crop, it's all of the crops. So in the fall, you might harvest pumpkins and gourds and things like that. And in the summer, you might harvest corn and watermelon and tomatoes. So a harvest is all the crops that you get. Our next word is separate. And separate means divide objects into smaller groups or categories. So sometimes here at school, you're separated into small groups to work, or like my daughter, anytime that she eats M&Ms, she separates them by color and eats them from her least favorite to her most favorite. Crazy. So separate, to divide things into smaller groups. Our next word is ashamed. And if you are ashamed, that means you feel embarrassed or guilty about something that you did. So maybe like if you cheated on a test one time, or you were mean to your little brother or sister, you might feel ashamed. So you feel bad or guilty about it. Our next word is borders. And borders are the dividing line between two pieces of land. So a border could be a fence, it could be a river, it could just be where one person's land ends and another begins. But a border is the difference in land. Our next word is advice. And advice is when you tell someone what you think they should do. So a lot of times you might go to your friends for advice and say, man, this person's being really mean, I don't know what to do. And your friend might say, well, I think you should, blah, blah. And that's advice. They tell you what to do. Our next word is borrow. And if you borrow something, that means that you have another person's permission to use something that belongs to them. So maybe you like to borrow a toy of your brother or sister's, or sometimes I borrow my mom's jewelry, but I always ask first, because borrow means you have permission. All right, the next word is patch. And a patch is a small area of land where crops grow. So a patch is kind of like a pumpkin patch. It's an area where just the one thing grows, not necessarily the whole farm and fields, just one spot. And our last vocabulary word is serious. And serious means you care a lot about what you are saying and doing. So sometimes I might say, hey, take this seriously, it's a grade. And that means I want you to care about it. I want you to work hard at it. All right, next you're gonna go ahead and look at the slideshow below and make sure that you listen to your story read aloud on slide 2.